Okay, we are good to go. To everyone who's going to be watching, who's going to see this later, welcome. This is the third in our series of Aperitif concerts, which is a chance for you to get to know the women of Tesoro. Tesoro is an international network of women poets, and this series is to introduce them all to you and to the public one by one. I'll ask a couple of questions, and then this week's artist will have 30 minutes to regale you. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. We are blessed this week to be favored by Shockie G, whom I fell across just sitting in a Zoom room, as you know, we've all been doing for about the last, what, 2.5, 3 years now. And I had heard the name, but I had never seen her work. And I saw the work, and it's like, well, we have another Tesoro woman. Let me go snatch her while I can. So welcome to the Aperitif concerts. And I'm going to start you off with the question that I start everybody off with, which is why poetry and why now?
Why poetry? It's an outlet for me. And I think it is for a lot of people. I like to write about my own experiences. It helps me to get things off my chest. I'm a very anxiety-ridden person, so it allows me to kind of relax. As far as why now, I wouldn't say it is why now. I don't think it's a choice that I made. I've been writing poetry since probably about middle school. Um, the thing is, I think people now are just starting to listen to my poetry. Maybe they are now starting to be able to relate to the things that I'm saying. Um, and I appreciate that. Um, so that would be why. Why now? I think within the last few years, I've had more people who have, and it may be the pandemic and being able to connect to different people. Um, but it's a blessing to be able to get to that many people.
Okay. So sort of running off that tip, do you think there's more of a need for poetry at this particular point in time, historically speaking?
Um, Probably. I think there's always been a niche for poetry, but with the wow, stumbling over my words. With the
It's okay.
pandemic and people being in the house, poetry is kind of an intimate thing. Um, so not being able to connect with people and using spaces like this, like Zoom and the internet to connect with people, I think that kind of gives poetry its chance for people to relate with others in a way that they may not have related before.
Okay.
Definitely
Um,
being stuck in their emotions and feelings and thoughts more than they were before.
okay. Politically speaking, do you think there's more of a need for it now? Or is that something that just, you don't get into that, you just go off the emotional tip?
Um, Politically speaking, I think it has always been there. Um, you know, from now, like, yes, there are voices that need to be heard with the things that are going on in regards to like police brutality, women losing their voice, and their rights, the things we're seeing happening to LGBTQ people even losing their rights. I think poetry gives them that voice. But I think in the past, those things were needed too. One of my favorite poets, Maya Angelou, she was a voice in a time when it needed it, as well. Langston Hughes. You can always name a lot of poets who, or writers like James Baldwin. Different time, but they still were relatable in regards to what was going on politically. So I think there's always going to be that space for poets. And as long as there's a government, there's always going to be people that need to speak out against it. So
Definitely. Couldn't have said it better myself. What is it that pushed you into this? I mean, did it, come upon you like a thief in the night, or did you, just wake up one day and poetry was kind of sitting on the side of your bed going, hey, you wake up, let's go. What was?
um So performance poetry kind of did. So like I said, I've been writing since middle school, just putting my emotions down, trying different things. But it wasn't
Just so we
till,
have sort of a timeline here, you said you started in middle school,
yeah, like
and
about sixth grade,
and you're how old now?
35.
Okay, you don't look at the Black Don't Crack. Moving on.
um, but within the, in college, so around 2008, they had like talent shows and things like that, and I would do spoken word for that, which went well, and I liked being able to be on stage and share, have a space to share in. But after college, there wasn't really a lot of places for me to share where I lived. And then with the pandemic, a lot of those places came online. So there's a lot of open mics online. And going to the different open mics, was able to get my name out there. Um, and I met a guy with Guerrilla Poets, Josh Smalls, and he was like, "I think you should try slam poetry. I think you would really enjoy that." And because he said that, I started to work on like performance pieces, and actually compete. And yeah, out of 4 that I've competed in, I came in first place 3 times. So um, it's something that even if it wasn't successful, I would still continue to try to get better. That's just the nature of who I am. But the fact that people do enjoy um, the words helps a lot.
Okay. So you said that you had been doing slam, and I know I certainly draw a line, but I know that there are artists who don't. To you, is there a big difference between slam poetry and performance poetry?
So when just regular poetry for me, and the difference between the two, when you go to a slam, um, you have to relate to everyone in the audience. So it all depends on where you are. One thing, what you say one night may not um, resonate with a different group the next night. So you're really taking other people's considerations into mind. Whereas when you're just performing a poem, you're performing what your heart feels. It's more what you're thinking and you're feeling that night. And whether people vibe with it, it doesn't matter, because you hope they vibe with it, but with slam, you kind of have to make them vibe with it.
Okay. So I know that, I have, old students and friends, folks like that, who have participated in that. And I'm always interested to hear really what was the most terrifying thing that happened to you on stage, because there have been stories.
Um, I haven't had a horrible experience, but the my first slam, which is the one that I lost, um, I hadn't done a slam before, and when they pulled names, I was the first person to go. So I
Oh,
had never been in a slam before. Um, and I had done all of my open mics online. So it was in areas like New York City, New Mexico, things like that. And this was in my hometown. Oh, well, not my hometown, but where I'm living now in Pittsburgh.
okay.
So the crowd was different. I had never done that. And I was the first person up. So I went and I got like the lowest score I had ever.
Oh,
And then, but then, I listened to the other artists go after that, and then the next time I went, I actually like got first place. So it was a
okay.
matter of adapting to the crowd and what they wanted to hear, kind of thing.
Okay, so to balance that out, when's been the best time on stage for you?
Best time on stage, I would say, was not when I was competing. It would have been back in college. I just performed a few pieces, and it wasn't for competition or anything like that. Um, Pieces on like suicide, things like that, things that people can relate to. And when I feel like when people feel a relation to me, that's when I feel best, because that's the reason why I do it. So people know that they're not going through things alone in most cases.
Okay. How important is it, just as a writer, how important are the opinions of the people around you?
As a writer, I would say it doesn't matter, right? Because again, I do it to get the feelings that I have off my chest. It started as journaling, so it doesn't matter, because even if I write something that other people may not like or want to hear, it may be something that I don't perform, but I'm still writing it to get it off my chest. Um, However, on a personal level, I I'm one of those people who worries about what people think about me and what they're saying and what they do. Um, they say with age, eventually that goes away. So I'm hoping that
Yeah, it does.
I'm hoping it comes soon. I would really like that. Um, but yeah,
It comes with an amazing amount of freedom, I can tell you that.
I am definitely ready for that. Always in my head, but yeah.
Okay. Um, what is it, I use the word trigger. Okay. What is it that, that trips that so that you start writing? Or are you one of those writers who sits down, every day in between, like 12 and 3, you write? Or what is your writing process like?
Um, so I don't have a consistent writing process where I sit down between 12 and 3. I don't do anything consistently like that. I wish I did. I just don't. Um, a lot of times my trigger is, I write a lot of deep stuff. So like pain, um, and communal pain, things that a lot of people are feeling. So again, I write a lot about police brutality, the shootings that have been in the news, things like Uvalde when that happens, and you can feel a whole community just hurting, and you're trying to get it out, but this community is trying to get it out as well. I tend to write about those things. Um, Another thing that I write about a lot is just my mom. Um, she passed away in 2011, but I do think about her a lot, so that uh, I do a lot of writing about that as well.
Okay. Seeing, as you're the, whenever people say, well, I'm so much older now, I'm in my 30s, I have to laugh because I'm twice that. But what's the, as cliche as the question is, but I'm still always interested, what is the one thing that you are going to tell somebody who wants to do this?
Be honest to yourself. Um, I think some people, they try to write for an audience, and then they lose who they are in the process, and people can tell that you're not being yourself. When you're reading something, and it feels like you're reading someone else's work. Um, just to be honest with yourself, regardless of what that is. Um, it is the biggest one. And the second is to keep writing and keep reading. I've noticed that since I've started to read a lot more poets' work, I've seen an improvement in my own work. Um,
Okay.
so it works both ways. You've got to stay learning in order to produce.
Okay. Any sage advice? So we've got about 2 more minutes left, and give me the game plan. Are you looking to write a million more books? Are you looking to hit Carnegie Hall in a year? Are you looking to travel, worldwide and grace every stage in between here and, Swaziland? I mean, what's the layout looking like?
Um, I would like to reach as many people as I can, make an impact on as many lives as I can. It would be nice to travel and do poetry. Um, I don't know about like Carnegie Hall. That's big. Um, but I'm hoping to get some, at least within the next year, get a book produced that does a little bit better than my last one. Um,
Now, did that one come out during the pandemic, or because
yes.
I just, kind of fell across it reading your bio, but didn't see a whole lot of mention of it after that.
Yeah, I don't mention it much. I wrote that after a breakup, and so it's a lot of like heartbreak poetry, which
Mhm.
I don't write too much heartbreak poetry. Like I do and I don't. So it doesn't even sound like it's my poetry, which is weird. So um yeah. and it was self-published. So yeah, I'd like to actually be published by a company and actually advertise and things like that.
Okay. Well, so we've hit that magic mark. So thank you for answering all of my extremely insolent questions. And now you have a half an hour to just go ahead and let it rip. And however it is you want to do this, whatever it is you want to say, now is your time. So go for it.
Alrighty. So this first piece is called Name. So for those that know me, my first name is not actually Shockie. I go by that as a shortened version of my name, mainly because a lot of people butcher my name, and a lot of times it's just as a microaggression, I feel like. So that is what this piece is about. My name has always been Cinnamon Challenge in the back of the throat. Maybe my name is truth, hard to swallow. I have shortened my name, made it appetizer, added sugar, not all things nice, and still you struggle to digest it. My mother once told me she spent hours milling over my name like soul food, like Sunday dinner. Yeah, my name is collard greens, mac and cheese, and baked chicken. You prefer a hamburger. Too often I have let you choose, but some days I want to be old school, the way my foster mother was. Say you will eat what I cook or you won't eat at all. It was always Brussels sprouts. Is that how you see me? Bitter, poorly cooked, and lacking flavor? I like to believe my name has been drizzled with balsamic, simmered with bacon the way I love my sprouts. Hope you can learn to love my name too. But I watch you, push my name around the plate, chew it up, spit it out as something less distinguished. You say my name tastes like the blood of my ancestors, garnished with the tears of my youth, reminds you of a meal your grandmother used to make. If you remember correctly, it wasn't your grandfather's favorite. The way he'd wash it down with whiskey, regurgitate it with hatred, leave it on the kitchen floor, say whatever it is someone else's problem now. As if my name was never good enough for his palate. It is hard for me to not wish that the next time you speak my name, you choke on it.
I love that.
This next one is called Charles Darwin, and it is actually the first piece that I submitted that won a competition. I've been told that after years of struggle, we all learn to adapt, call it survival of the fittest or evolution. Say at some point, nature might give humans the ability to molt, shed our skin when living in it feels like too much, when history carves its way into every wrinkle, leaves its baggage under wary eyes, my skin, melanated. They say black don't crack, but black also doesn't chameleon its way into the background, hasn't quite thickened itself into Kevlar, has become a canvas for scars, tattoos, and bullet wounds, this skin. A badge of honor, tapestry of purple hearts, a rehab facility for trauma. I imagine one day this skin will be more than just an uneasy conversation, an excuse, a cocoa butter laced apology. Know that I have learned to be comfortable in this skin. The way we pretend turtlenecks are comfortable around our necks, and maybe that too is adapting, some form of survival. Evolution is funny that way. And this next one I actually just wrote yesterday in a workshop on kintsugi, which is a Japanese art of putting broken things back together with gold. It's called Pretty Broken. From dust we came, to dust we will return. This body, breathing pottery, a relic of a time before. Pots full of emotion and water carried on Mother's Earth's crown. Lately, I have been chipped, cracked, and broken, the pieces jigsawed back together whole. Maybe I am an artifact from my mother's ruins, proof of her existence, proof of the beauty her hands could create. Do not place me in a museum of your memories. Continue to fill me, pour into me until your cup runneth over with reckless abandon. Do not let my body become a hollow vessel before its time. Plant within me seeds of change, watch them sprout into a revolution. And when I shatter beyond repair, fertilize the sands of your dreams so I can grow into a desert flower in your memory. Do not tell me broken cannot be beauty.
I love that last line. That's immortal.
All right. This next one is called One Drop. They told us the rule was one drop. Says if there is any amount of black in your blood, it takes over like venom. But now this woman, born half black, half white, says she does not claim this half. Shoves her black in the back of the closet right next to her pride, removes the kink in her hair and prays it does not rain. I ask her how she also removed the curl from her lips, which is to say, why she never smiles. She says she can't enjoy her better half, says she gets all of the guilt and none of the privilege, finds herself hating both sides. Says on one hand, the one side is so set on colonization it takes over her brain, and the other just wants to be free. I tell her, one drop of her blood next to anyone else's will still be just as red. I do not force her to choose, but pray she learns to love herself. Tell her we have all been both villain and victim. Understand that the thin line between love and hate just happens to be her bloodline. Tell her self-love means accepting all parts of her and knowing she can be whoever she wants. Tell her God leaves no bastards. We were all created in his image. Why would he make us a promise in rainbows and create us without color?
It's taken me a little bit of recovery time after each of these. I mean, they are so succinct and so very much to the point. And, you know, you and I both know there are poets who will go on for a year and a half without without getting to the point of something. So this is lovely for me to hear. Before you go on to your next piece, because I mean we referenced it, you referenced it. A little bit about the book. The title would be nice. And just, you know, you said you wrote it after a breakup.
Yes. It is called Shattered Emotions, Scattered Thoughts. And really the only reason I used that title was because it was a line that came up in a poem when I was in high school. And I thought it was like the coolest line back then. And I was like, if I ever write a book, it's gonna have that title.
I love it.
But yeah, I it was the first I would say real relationship I had been in. It only lasted about 5 months. But yeah, I didn't think I did anything wrong. And then we broke up, and yeah, you get to writing when that happens. So
Yeah, you do.
yeah.
Now, is there a place that we can find this? It's still in print, I hope.
Yes, it is actually on Amazon.
Okay.
Self-published through Amazon.
Okay. Do me a favor when you get a minute, if you can throw that in the chat. And that way, when other people look at this and listen to this interview, they'll know where they can go ahead and get a copy of it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. You know, you've got time, so keep going. I love what you're laying down so far.
All right, so this poem is actually part 2. I have a poem called My Brother's Burden, which I think you've heard before. This is called My Sister's Lament. This is part 2 to that. My sisters see both sides of a coin like a referee. Wait at home for their sons, husbands, watching the door for the knock that never came. The door that slams open, wake up call they cannot wake up from. My sisters' bodies have been spiritual portal and bulletproof vests, which is to say they have given birth to a Messiah only to see him crucified. I have bathed in my sister's tears like baptism, like new beginning, cannot wash away the gunpowder, cannot scrub off hatred like yesterday's stain. Do not make detergent strong enough to clean blood off asphalt, baked in the summer sun. This spot, a hood shrine, a memorial to all the sons and daughters lost in an endless war. They say they saw racism die back in the 60s, somewhere near the White House steps. It's made a full recovery, I guess. Traded hoods for badges, mistake respect with authority. My sisters, born royalty, now queens of this country's pain, call her Miss Justice. Just remember to say her name, scream it out loud, lay it gently at the feet of our ancestors. Let it hang from your lips like the noose made for America's throat. The time for revolution is yesterday, and there will be more Black bodies tomorrow. My sisters continue to mourn, but please, who will cry when they are gone? All right.
Oh my.
So this one, this starts to get a little deep. This is called Home. This is based on a true story. I had always thought the first time I stared down the barrel of a gun, I would be on both sides. Guess I thought I'd hate myself long before anyone else had the chance to. Forgot I wore this X on my chest every day for people who scream 88 while carrying a 12 gauge. All I wanted was directions, but I heard the gun cock before I reached the question, and some excuse of a man put me in his sights like a James Bond credit. Tell me, how fast can you go when your mind is racing? Your heart is going a mile a minute, and your legs have gone numb, just two concrete bricks destined to be a foundation. I wish I had the bravado of Emmett, the will to run of Harriet, but damn it, if anything, my body chose to channel Rosa and decide not to move. At least until I felt the tension of the trigger pull cut through the night sky like hot metal. I will not die here. I'm not sure if I ran or flew, but my next memory was a mirage of red and blue. The cop says, "Do you know how fast you were going?" I thought, not fast enough to outrun history. But blessed to be tongue-tied and not neck-tied, I replied, "Please, I just want to make it home." See, where I'm from, people like me gamble anytime they leave their house, drive up the road. These towns don't wait for the sun to go down for their hate to build up. Don't care about the placement of the Mason-Dixon. They don their Confederate flag, say all jokes aside, fuck heritage. They just hate my kind. They have no reason for it. And to think, I thought I would be on both ends of a gun. Thought I could ever learn to hate myself that much.
Whew.
That was a fun one. I used to work for a Rent-A-Center, and I got sent to a town that's a sundown town back where I used to live. And it was late at night. I got lost, and I stopped for directions, and the guy pulled a shotgun on me. And yeah, so that's where that poem came from.
And when was this? When people tell me stories like this, I'm always, did this happen last year, 15 years ago and stuff?
Say
I mean,
about
the fact that there are even still sundown towns is
Oh yeah.
beyond appalling. People don't think they still exist.
Yeah, they do. I would say this was probably about 2014.
Okay, so way past the time when it shouldn't have been an issue. But
Yep.
yeah, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that it never stopped being an issue. It just cloaked itself a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, the rural America is much different. And I think urban America doesn't realize that. And they started to see it with the Trump election, but there's definitely a big difference between the two.
Definitely. I used to do a lot of traveling with a person who just refused to take anything but back roads. And
Nope, not me.
not, I remember just, like sitting or, going through these little small towns and thinking, I'm not quite sure I'm going to get out of here tonight. And we're not talking about, 50 years ago, 60 years. We're talking about 10 years ago. We're talking about 8 years ago. So, even now, just going through little towns just makes me nervous. And I don't know, but that's the experience of most of the people of color I know.
Mhm. Yep. All right. And this is another one. This one is just called racism. 1. The first time a cop pulled me over, I was in a rental, put my hands on the steering wheel and tried to disappear. The cop asked me where I was from, asked if the car was stolen, asked why I would be nervous if I hadn't done a thing. I said, I know people who have been killed for less. Asked why I'd been pulled over. He answered as clear as day, as clear as the glass breaking in my chest. I'd done nothing, but a Black person with a nice car and out-of-town plates is suspicious. After a brief wait, he let me go, and my heart dropped from my throat back into the pit of my chest. The dam in my eyelids broke, and I cried the whole way home. 2. The second time someone mistook my name for nigger, I clenched my fist like I was squeezing blood from stones. I stared into the capillaries in their eyes like I could find all the history in their bloodline. My ears rang like church bells. And when they decided I wasn't worth it, I ran home, hid inside a pillow, dreamed of my own funeral. And when I woke, I had to convince myself I was still alive, convince myself that I was not what they saw me as. 3. The third time a Black man joked about how he doesn't date Black women, I was clutching a pic of a mocha-skinned, thicker than oat milk goddess. He said, I mean, her body is nice, but she'd be perfect if she were white. I did not laugh. Guess my sense of humor is just as dark as all the girls he did not like your mama so black, I don't know how she gave birth to a punchline. You probably couldn't handle her anyway. 4. The next time I stare racism in the face, I will not stand still, will not hold back the levees of anger in my throat. Maybe I will scream so loud, banshees take notes, or I will blow up like every bomb North Korea wishes it could make. Will not let racism fester like a boil I cannot reach, will fight it to the death and hope I come out alive. All right, so we're gonna lighten it back up again.
Thank you. Not quite sure how much more my heart can take, but
Oh, geez.
it's all brilliant.
All right, this one's just called nostalgia. When I was a kid, for a very, very brief time, I lived in the Bronx. And one of the things, the girls used to always double Dutch, and I got forced to learn how to double Dutch. But nowadays, you never see kids doing those things. So that's what this was about. Tell me, do the girls double Dutch anymore? Put that Black girl magic in motion, dance to the rhythm of the city. Do the boys on bikes still stop to watch? Say, ain't no way she can spin around without messing up. They crack their jokes, but they never jump. Do you notice the streetlights still come on and beg you to go home, even when there's no longer a curfew? Or have you learned to tune it out? Only hear the humdrum of a day's work or the call of a hustler, because that's all we can do lately. Did you forget what it is to smile? To turn your lips into sunflowers so they reach towards the sun, creating crescent moons that pull the tide in your direction. You were a princess once. How are you not queen now? Why did you let your crown fall, roll under the bed and disappear? You are Black diamonds and crown jewels, Black woman. This is your coronation. You never needed a king to have a fairy tale, just magic. And we all know melanin is just magic and then some. Queen, teach the world what it is to dance, to turn their bodies fluid and create waves. Teach the girls to double Dutch again. Put that Black girl magic in motion and dance to the beat of their own drums.
Oh, I love that. I was never able to actually, double dutch was not going to be in my wheelhouse. But you said, do the girls double dutch anymore? And I know in San Diego, there's a group of women that get together, every week. And they all did double dutch when they were girls, and they just decided, hey, let's bring it back.
Mhm.
So they go out, to the park with their choice, and they, don't do double dutch for a couple, 3 hours. So yeah, that, plus what was I watching? You remember, I'm sure, when they used to actually have like the double dutch championships
Mhm.
that they would, and I was always fascinated by that. Because I knew good and darn well that if I tried it, I was going to get hurt. But um, to see these little girls do it like they were just, born to the brand was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, seeing people like dance when they're doing it and all that, it's amazing. I
Mhm.
was never that good. It was a rite of passage when I was younger, that you had to learn how to do it. But I did it enough to be able to say I could do it. But
Okay.
you
Yeah, I
know,
saw somebody do it once and juggle at the same time, and I'm just not that coordinated.
oh no, not at all, not at all. Probably separately, but not together, not together at all.
Not even separately, but like I said, it's lovely to look at, delightful to see, as the phrase goes. So we've got about another 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. Um, I'll do this one. It is called Erotic Heartbreak. Once I read a poem so good she screamed my name, called me daddy, circled my tongue around her metaphors, and sucked on her stanzas like mango. Baby, that poem was so sweet, dribbled off my lips like a punchline. I had her speaking in haikus and villanellos, like, not yet, wait for it. I don't want to fall in love with you. Did you know a poem could be platonic? She said, girl, I don't believe in monogamy anyway. Always preferred a monologue to a soliloquy. It was too late. I knew right then she'd break my heart. Knew I'd never find another poem to make me climax like that. Now, I spend all my nights writing new poems, cadences all wrong, words misspelled. Thought if I could just get a poem naked, I could forget the taste of that first poem. Have you ever had a daydream turn into a nightmare? I mean, lying awake at 3 a.m., surrounded by crumpled up reminders of rejection, jigsaw puzzle dictionary where the words just do not fit. Hate to see her on another poet's arm, rips my heart out, throws it on the ground. She calls it slam poetry. I ask her not to tell him all my pillow talk, like spoken word, invite her back to my place for another sonnet. She declines. Guess I took that poem for granted. Make no mistake, the next time I feel a poem like that on my lips, I will swallow her whole, get lovesick, so I regurgitate perfection with every poem after.
I could not love that more. That's fantastic.
Thank you. And let me find another one here.
I'm wondering, do you have, and I think it's probably the first one I ever heard you perform, the poem, and you've already done the companion piece to it, but the poem about your brother.
Yes.
If you could, as a personal favor to me, do that one. Like, I think that's probably, well, until I heard the one that you just did. Up until then, that one was my favorite. So,
Okay. Yes, I can do that. It's called My Brother's Burden. As kids, we joke about giving free tickets to the gun show whenever we raise our arms. But now, my brother's body is a fully stocked armory. You can hear the boom of cannons in his voice, a grand finale of fireworks in his laughter. His heart, trigger happy, chest an arsenal of pride. So when he leaves the house, I'm afraid anyone will mistake his melanin for gunpowder. Any gesture seen as reaching for a gun. His eyes turn gunmetal black when scared. It is hard to conceal his pain. I have seen the way America looks at him, like a wet dream, call him fetish and pray. My brother is a moving target, a walking excuse, a closed coffin ready for wake. I wish I could paint my brother any other color than chalk outline or mural, camouflage him into this world. Wish I could put a safety on his back instead of a bullseye. Remind you he is someone's father, son, uncle, brother, instead of another bastard. Because after all the things my brother can be, America will always be the gun. Hatred, the bullet that eviscerates my brother's temple, turns his favorite streets into memorial and shrine. Exchange his bright future for candlelight vigils. Maybe someday, America will stay silent in its holster, will not see my brothers as a weapon, say they feared for their lives. And ain't that ironic, the way I fear for mine?
Breaks my heart every time I hear it. We've got about 4 minutes.
All right.
So, brilliance us to the end.
Okay. I guess since I have time, I will do this piece. It is about my mother.
Okay.
I'm a late 80s baby. You should know what that means. My mother was a whisper in the midst of chaos, which is to say she was barely there. My mother wasn't too good with words, says she didn't know how to love, that I was her greatest creation, and I was a mistake. But when she said she loved me, it was the first poetry I felt. Her arms were Maya Angelou and Langston Hughes. When she hugged me, even the caged bird, dreams deferred. My mother was beautiful, a flower blooming in the midst of a brick-lined street. Some may say she was a weed, but to me, she was a rose, a walking contradiction. My mother was both my everything and nothing to play with. She would say, "Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry for." She was either a fortune teller or finally learned to keep a promise. What she didn't know is she would also become the reason I smile. My sanctuary on days when I outrun my demons, the quiet before the storm of thoughts circling my mind. My mother is missed time, proof that time is not equivalent to money, but a reminder that I don't have enough of either. My mother was a teacher. The way she made lessons of her actions, with a disclaimer to do as she said and not as she did. A magician in the way she always hid her pain. My mother was always just a little bit too extra for any space. But now, she fills the space between my ribs. The reason why I love too much and not enough. I guess you could say, I don't know how to love, but I loved her.
Okay, now that's my new favorite one. So you keep replacing my favorite piece of yours, and that's already happened just twice during this broadcast. So just gotta give me a break here. We've got about 2 minutes left, and so if you have time, if you've got one more that'll kind of fit in that time space, I would love to hear it.
Oh boy.
Because I haven't had a new favorite for like 15 seconds here, so.
All right. I'll do Science of Love.
Okay.
When you love someone, your body begins to surge with oxytocin and dopamine. This rush in hormones causes your eyes to dilate. The pupils become larger as if you are in a darkened room. This is to grab as much light as possible. All of that to say, from the moment you see her, your body prepares to steal her shine. If she loves you back, your eyes become two black holes where light cannot escape, pulling towards each other stronger than Earth's gravity. That makes love one of the strongest forces in our solar system. Knowing all this, you still said you needed space. As if the universe we created was not enough. As if the supernova of a heart was not enough. Left it broken, could not get out of bed. My blankets felt like a ton of bricks. Prayed one day I'd wake up and forget everything. Ask not to be so weak. Never mind that the void sucked me in and spat me out, left me hung over in a cluster of stars. That the light in you traveled thousands of years just for me to catch a glimpse. And here I am, ready to do it all over again, waiting for that big bang moment when I will meet her again in our hearts, two moons circling these planets, just hoping to pull the tide in our direction, to feel love's grip one more time, hold these constellations in our palm, and give birth to new horoscopes.
Okay, another new favorite. So I'm just going to say all of your work is my favorite work, and we're just going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for sharing your work and yourself. Where will you be next? Where can we find you?
As of right now, just hopping out of different open mics. I am working on a manuscript called And that includes some of the pieces that I read today. I am hoping to get that published in mid-summer of next year. So yeah, on the lookout for that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. Make sure that if you're not already following Shockie G, you start doing it. This is clearly a voice that is too important to not have in your life and in this world. Thank you again for coming on. We will be back next Friday for another Aperitif concert with another Tesoro woman, whatever time zone it is you're in, because I never know. I barely know what time zone I'm in. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend, and we will see you next Friday.
Thank you.